they've left it open to the public, and well, I'm in. Can't, for example, use this to figure out all of the accounts that this has ever sent, but I can at least send a bunch of bogus messages to annoy the scammers. Not only take out a teleport to send them to a dangerous location, but also withdraw all their most valuable items. Are a little more sophisticated than the ones they were sending. Let me start my script, and
Kakua, said tie for this brazy API key.
God, so disappointing. Alright, so what you're looking at here is a bunch of malicious plugins that are being distributed by scammers on RuneScape to scam people out of thousands of dollars worth of items. And they're not going to be happy that I have access to this because they've been constantly setting it to private to try and avoid people like me getting my hands on it. See, if I go ahead and just duplicate this tab to refresh it, you'll see it actually, I get a 404 error because they've put this on private.
Oh my god, we got a big one, boys! We got a big one!
But first, I want to let you know we're extending our little summer buy one get one on our pressure casted statues.
Please be careful unwrapping your KBD. No, bro, this shit is heavy. You're this Squinty? His name is Squinty, alright? Say hi to Squinty, Fizz.
That means if you add any 2 figures to checkout with this coupon or the link in the description, you'll get the second one of equal or lesser value for free. It's limited to the first 20 customers though. We only do small batches. I mean, heck, the KBDs are already gone from the last video. So if you've had your eye on something, now would be a great time, and check the reviews too. We've got 5 stars on everything for a reason. Alright, thank you, back to the scammers. What happened is, on the 29th of last month, my friend pings me on Discord saying he met this random guy 2 weeks ago at Chambers. And tonight they spent 2 hours in a call together with this rando showing him how to do Theater of Blood, eventually telling him that he needs to install a plugin to help him with it and that it's available on a client called OSRSBeatz. Now luckily my friend is privy to this sort of thing because had he installed it, it would have blacked out his screen, skulled his character and hopped him to a PvP world where the scammer would have killed him for all his fancy gear and sold it on the black market for a few $100. Now as awful as this sounds, I was super excited to hear that they tried to scam my friend because people have been sending me tip-offs about this scam since April. And I've been trying to get my hands on the plugins that they're sending over so I can decompile them and see exactly what they do, because when people fall victim to this, it's essentially the same as downloading an exe off a stranger on Discord and executing it. The plugin could totally have something even more nefarious, like a dropper to install a remote administration tool or a keylogger or whatever else, so I really want to see if they're doing anything like that. So I asked my friend if he still had the GitHub link that they would have sent him when they're trying to scam him, and he did, but they had already set it back to private. Dead in the water, no access. I couldn't download the plugins to decompile them. But my friend's a smart guy. See, there's another scam going on here with this repo link. So they've got to use OpenOSRS for this scam because RuneLite won't let you just install unverified plugins like this, partly for this exact reason. And when you go to install an external plugin on OpenOSRS, which if you're not aware is a cheat client, Jagex just this month have actually actively started banning people for using it. Anyways, the scammers direct you to add their plugin by typing in this box plugins-release and xkyle. What they've done is they've actually set up their repo to be a lookalike. They are imposturing one of the developers of this cheat client because he's got a real repo full of plugins that's the other way around. Xkyle plugins-release. So if one of their victims had some familiarity with OpenOSRS, they might see this and be like, oh, this is legit, this is Xkyle, when it's really not. Of course, these link back to the GitHub profiles. Here's the scammers, username is plugins release and the repo name is xkyle, and here's the real profile. You can see the username here is xkyle and the repo name is plugins release. And my friend spotted this and he's like, dude, we can 100% get the code because they're not gonna make a new GitHub, like this is too good. I assume that they just switch it to private between victims so the code doesn't get leaked, so if we keep checking it, next time they're scamming somebody, they'll make it public. And so sure enough, I keep checking back, and on June 16th, I find that they've done exactly that. They've left it open to the public, and well, I'm in. It took me a couple days to get around to it, but I set up an environment that I'm comfortable downloading these on, and I'm glad I did too, because I'm a busy guy. It takes me a while to get around to making these videos, and in the meantime, SirPuggers just dropped a video a few days ago exposing these guys, and they immediately set this repo back to private. I think they're a little spooked that it's getting so much attention. Anyways, since I downloaded all of them, that doesn't matter. I can decompile them to see exactly how the scam works and check if there's anything more malicious like a keylogger in them, and spoiler alert, there is. So normally you can't open a jar file and view the code because it'll just show up as this converted binary mess, but using this little decompiler here, just drag it in and boom, there it is. So the offending code is in this coxhelperplugin.class file, and if we scroll down to line 102, they've coded this function that will hop your account to a high-risk PvP world. High risk specifically because this essentially scalds your account. On a high risk world, you'll lose all of your items on death. Now, when you switch to one of these worlds, there's a warning in game asking if you're sure that you want to. But if we scroll down a little bit more in the code, they've got some script here to automatically click through that too. I think the most interesting part of this is that they've actually made it so this is all controlled by 3 specific commands they can type in chat. See, there's this function here on line 170 that monitors all chat messages in game, and if it detects the scammer typing Xeon, it will tell the plugin to hop the victim to a PvP world. Then there's another, if they type Xenon, not only will it hop them to a high risk world, it will also black out their screen. And finally, they've got a third command, what up, that only blacks out the screen. There's actually a 4th command here, trade me, but they never actually coded it to trade the scammer's account. I'm guessing they couldn't find a good solution to do so without actually hard coding the scammer's username in here. And I don't think that they decided not to do that because they're afraid of someone like me finding it. I actually think it's because these scammers tend to use many accounts and change their usernames frequently. It would have just been a pain for them to constantly update the plugin to match whatever account they're currently on. So yeah, code to black out the screen and hop the victim's account to a high-risk PvP world, so they just have an account waiting to kill the victim and take all of their gear. And we've seen in previous videos what they'll do is they'll try to get the victims to take out every single high valuable item in their bank before enabling the plugin by saying something like, yo, show me like what gear you have so we can figure out like what you should take into the raid. And of course, the Theater of Blood bank is a safe zone on a PvP world, so they get you to go to an area of the game that's not safe before making the plugin activate. Malcolm interviewed a victim and they had her go to the woodcutting guild by saying that they're going to trade her a dragon hunter crossbow there. Now, of course, this is a lot of actions to get a victim to do, and the scammers know that the more actions, the lower their chance of actually getting somebody. And you might have noticed in the repo, there's more plugins than just this Cox Helper. The Cox Helper is, by the way, the exact same as the Theater plugin. I probably should have been using that one for this example, but the code is literally the exact same. However, there's this third plugin, pvmindicators.jar, and that actually has code to automatically go into the victim's bank, not only take out a teleport to send them to a dangerous location, but also withdraw all their most valuable items. But we're gonna get to that one after, because in these 2 raid plugins, things unfortunately only get worse. If we scroll up to line 88, there's this little post function, and in the context of programming, that means to send some data, a message to some other resource. And inside of the brackets, the message it's sending is the victim's username and password. And if we trace this code down to the functions it's calling, it's able to grab the credentials by OpenOSRS having this login class that hooks into the Jagex client black box and pulls out that data. So they've now got the victim's login in plain text, and then they've got this post function they call on, which sends the details to their Discord server. And we know from SirPuggers' video that they've been using these login credentials to get on their victims' accounts and steal more items, sometimes weeks after the scam took place. And if their victim has a bank pin, they've even admitted to botting on the account so it will get banned for 2 weeks while they wait for that bank pin to reset. Truly nasty stuff. Now, when I originally saw this code, I got super excited because I thought this was a Discord bot being utilized, and this code would contain their private API key, which obviously I can see here, and would have meant that I'd have full access to their bot, and I could have had a lot of fun messing with it. But turns out they're using something called a Discord webhook here, which is really just a lazy man spot. It allows them to send messages to a Discord channel, but literally nothing more. Unfortunately, I can't, for example, use this to figure out all of the the accounts that this is ever sent and then tip off Jagex so they can lock them, but I can at least send a bunch of bogus messages to annoy the scammers. So I've written a little script here to do just that, and let's just say the messages I'm sending are a little more sophisticated than the ones they were sending. So check it out. Let me start my script, and
Kakua. Said tie for this brazy API key.
boom. But wait,
Cyberpool Lee said your weakness excites me.
there it is. So I've got a friend who spent a considerable amount of time ragging in Remington, and the people there sent some wild insults, so I asked him for his input, and well, those are the messages that he suggested. And it flops between them every 5 seconds. And of course, I enabled text-to-speech in the code for maximum annoyance. Now, I think I'm within Discord's rate limit, and I ran this on my own server for over an hour. They hopefully should get annoyed enough to delete their webhook API, and if they do, the program's going to error out like this. So that's my goal. Let's put their API key in now and run this bad boy all night. Okay, so big moment of truth here. I just put their API key in and I'm gonna compile this. Down here, we're gonna see if it runs. We might hit an error right away if they've already disabled their webhook for whatever reason. And I really hope it's still active because, well, I just spent a couple hours making this whole thing. So let's go ahead and hit launch to compile. Oh man, they've already shut down this channel. It's possible that maybe their Discord got banned for being involved in this sort of thing. I mean, that definitely does happen to these people, but I'm definitely disappointed that we didn't get a chance to go ahead and spam this, because that would have been awesome. Let me just double check and make sure everything's right, and just so I know for sure that I didn't mess anything up. And God, so disappointing. And you know what? If I had to just pasted this into Google, it would have told me that it was already gone before I spent all that time doing it. Anyways, would have been really nice, but I guess they got scared when that video got up and they probably deleted the Discord webhook or just the channel entirely, or maybe their channel got banned. Who knows, when the SirPugger video got live, because they set the repo back to private, so they were definitely getting squirrely about it. Regardless, we've got this PVM indicators plugin to still look at, and its code is much more sophisticated. This one is actually a real Chambers of Xeric cheat plugin originally coded by xKyle, so I've opened them both up in Beyond Compare. The scam plugin is on the left, and the real one is on the right. Now, this tool shows me all the differences between them, and what they've done, highlighted in red, is added a bunch of malicious code to steal items. What's interesting about this, not that I'm testing it, is that it probably still works perfectly fine as a rage cheat to the user, where the other plugins only look like one. This means if they actually get into a raid, they're not going to realize that something is wrong, at least not right away. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the code. I can see in the options they've added this button that says reload raid, stating that it will disconnect you temporarily from the game, and I imagine the scammers are probably telling their victims to click this button when they're ready for the scam to actually take place. And obviously, this is a lie. What they want you to think is that your game is disconnected, while the plugin is actually taking its sweet time stealing all of your stuff. And it delivers on this by immediately freezing your screen after you click that button, because what it does is it takes a picture of your screen and then it overlays that on top of it, instead of making the screen black like the last plugin. The only thing they didn't do here is actually put that little disconnection box in the top left. I'm surprised they didn't go that far. Now, of course, this is important for the scammers to do, because the next thing it does is it initiates an entire sequence of different processes. First, it finds and opens the nearest bank chest, you know, the one at Chambers. Once it's opened the bank, then it looks for any item that it can teleport with. Specifically, I'm seeing here the games necklace, combat bracelet, the amulet of glory, and a couple more. I guess that whoever coded this wanted to cover their ground, because not everyone has one specific teleport. In fact, there's a bit of code here monitoring chat messages, and it looks like the scammer can specify a teleport to use that they've somehow found out that the victim does indeed have. Anyways, it equips whatever teleport it manages to find, and then it starts stealing the items from the bank. There's code here to check the grand exchange price of everything. Then it takes the 28 most valuable items, making sure to withdraw all as noted in case there's multiple of whatever item it's trying to take. Then it calls the teleport away function, which uses whatever teleport it managed to get its hands on, before finally calling another method to hop to a high-risk PvP world, basically exactly the same as the last plugin, but whoever coded this, you can tell they're a much better programmer, and it is truly disappointing stuff to see people using their talents like this to cause harm. There's also code in here that will suppress the victim from clicking through the overlay that makes it appear that they're frozen. You can see that it prevents any actions like walk here, log out, or even attacking the scammer from being pressed, and it also stops the in-game sounds from playing. So with the last plugin, you could totally hear yourself being attacked, but you can't hear that with this one, so the victim is none the wiser. And then finally, it appears to repeat this process on death, effectively draining the victim's entire bank, although I'm not totally sure about this one because it's only set up to actually use a bank chest, not a bank booth. So if somebody had their respawn location set to Edgeville, even though they're on a high risk world, there's no bank chest there like there is at Lumbridge. So unless I found a bug in the code, but maybe I'm just reading this wrong. One thing I didn't find, however, is another login stealer. Now, you might be wondering about the last plugin in the repo, iUtils. I didn't see anything malicious in that. It's actually a helper library that PVM Indicators is using to perform all of its automation functions. So this is a really interesting evolution in RuneScape scamming because they're actually using malware now to take over people's clients to steal their stuff. You know, I don't think traditional RuneScape scamming is illegal. Maybe a civil matter could be made, but this scam might actually constitute 18 US Code 1030, unauthorized computer access with intent to defraud, depending on if a judge and jury deemed it as access. And one could certainly argue that since they're taking control of another player's character, that does constitute access. Like, there's a possibility here that the scammers could actually get jail time if they rip off the wrong person, assuming that they're from the US. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, possibly learned something, and I'll catch you in the next one.